"Death is worth celebrating, right?" said a man lying on the ground with blood flowing from his nose. "So your smile is to celebrate your death?" "Well then," Yamil said, as he pulled the trigger of his gun. Bang! "Argh!" A groan of pain rang out loudly from the man. He was fortunate to avoid a direct hit to his forehead. Yamil didn't seem to have the heart to finish him off, so he aimed his gun bullet at the man's thigh. The man continued to moan in pain while clutching his right thigh. But the noise made Zhao, Yamil's younger brother, unbearable. He quickly tied the man's hands and feet together, then stuffed a cloth over his mouth to keep the noise down. "What a tiring night," said Zhao as he sat next to the man. Yamil and Zhao had just finished a fierce battle with 5 men intent on stealing corpses. The two had set up an ambush to prevent the demonic power stored in the corpse from being taken away. But the fight wasn't easy. A sharp object slashed Zhao's arm, while a blunt object hit Yamil, causing fresh blood to ooze from his temple. The sacrifice paid off, and the theft of the corpse was foiled. 4 of the 5 men managed to escape, while 1 was taken down for questioning. But even though they managed to thwart it, minimizing the damage was inevitable. The cemetery, once neatly organized, suffered destruction. The shape of tombstones had deteriorated, and some trees had fallen. "Let's quickly clean up our work," Yamil invited his younger brother. Then they walked hand in hand to a half-dug grave. The two of them immediately continued the excavation with makeshift tools. Yamile and Zhao painstakingly scraped the soil and threw it up. Slowly, a coffin came into view. Yamile and Zhao immediately opened it. The corpse of a beautiful woman was stored inside. Yamile immediately put his right hand into the corpse's mouth and took something out. He took out a white pendant, the size of a peanut. "That's the pendant. It must hold the power of Kalanak," Zhao said. "Yes," replied Yamil. He threw the pendant up and shot it with his gun. The beautiful pendant was instantly shattered into pieces. "Please close the tomb again," Yamil said casually as he came out of it. "You can't do that," Zhao protested. "I'm a girl, so I don't have the strength of a man like you," Yamil explained while acting feminine, continuing to moan because he was worn out and injured after the fight. "Don't act like that. You're a tomboyish woman who doesn't deserve to be spoiled," Zhao taunted. Zhao couldn't argue anymore. He just grunted in annoyance and resigned himself. With what energy he had left, he closed the coffin and buried it in the ground. "What should we do with that guy?" asked Yamil to his brother, who was still busy with his work. "Let's interrogate him. Find out who sent him here," Zhao explained. "It's useless. He must be so loyal to his master. He'd rather die than leak any information. Just leave him here. Surely his friend or someone nearby will find him," Yamil emphasized. "Then how do we investigate this tomb-breaking phenomenon?" asked Zhao seriously. "From the traces they leave behind," Yamil explained. "Everyone who does grave robbing always has a tattoo of a split sun behind their ear. I believe this is the symbol of an organization, and its leader is the one we should be hunting," he added. Yamil and Zhao conducted a more in-depth investigation into the grave-robbing phenomenon. This phenomenon was happening more and more, and the culprit was again the group with the split sun tattoo behind its ear. After getting some in-depth information, it was revealed that the graves that were uncovered were the corpses of people who committed suicide by hanging themselves. From the Demonic Shadow Encyclopedia, the white pendant is Kalanak's power, Zhao said as he cleaned his wound to change the bandage. That means Kalanak's power is obtained from people who commit suicide by hanging themselves, he added. Yamil was silent for a long time, looking up information about the Split Sun group on the internet. But strangely, these few days, people are committing suicide more and more. Someone appears to be controlling their lives. But this is just my assumption, Zhao said again. Zhao's intuition seemed to make sense. How could so many people commit suicide in one area at the same time? Even a few days ago, 3 people committed suicide, but in different places. Every midnight, a Split Sun group would be seen dismantling the tomb. A burst of anger rushed into Yamil's heart. His hands clenched hard, his teeth chattering, his eyes glaring at the roof of his house. He was confused about what to do so that something like this would not happen again. I don't know if my assumptions are correct or not, but we must put an end to this phenomenon immediately so that there are no more victims and no more demons are resurrected, Zhao said. Yamil refocused on his computer and continued to search for information on the group. There's hardly any information about this group, he explained. The only clue I have comes from social media. They are a black market group that sells drugs, human trafficking, and online gambling, Yamil said again. Look at me, pleaded Zhao to his brother, who was still busy with his computer and the internet. What? Asked Yamil as he turned his chair to face his brother. Use your power, Zhao said. Yamil was shocked by his brother's request. He immediately ignored it and chose to get busy with his computer again. In the past 3 days, there have been 4 tomb demolitions, and we've only been able to thwart 2, Zhao explained. If you have that power, we can easily defeat these bastards. And one more fact you need to understand. It also means that a lot of demonic powers have been resurrected. Their power makes no sense to us, mere mortals. Yamil was still silent. If you don't use that power, tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, one of us will die. In a fight, it's not the power that matters, it's your fighting IQ. I don't need demonic powers, Yamil emphasized. I would rather not be a demon like them. I will stop this abomination in my own way, she added. Don't be so idealistic. I'm sure you can control that power. Swallow your pendant. Our enemies have unreasonable power now, Zhao replied with conviction. It seemed that this request from Zhao made Yamil angry. In fact, he immediately turned his body around so he could stare at his younger brother. His gaze was as intimidating as a lion about to pounce on a deer. Why don't you just swallow it, said Yamil. I can't. That power is only for women, and only you can control it, Zhao replied firmly as well. Chapter 2. Stalking the enemy Eastern City was peaceful. The people were friendly, crime was almost non-existent, and the happiness level was quite high. But this all seemed to be tarnished because there were quite a few cases of people committing suicide. This indicates that there are quite several citizens who are so depressed that they want to end their lives. But because of what? This uncertainty contributes to the tension in the Eastern City. Even the suicides seem to know no place, not only in their homes, but also on pedestrian bridges above the streets. Like today, a beautiful woman chose to hang herself on a pedestrian bridge in the city center. Her body hung perfectly with a rope wrapped around her neck. The body was only discovered by passers-by at 5 in the morning. Of course, the corpse had become a spectacle for residents who passed by. Even when evacuated by the police, residents gathered on the side of the road. Residents parked their cars and motorbikes on the road's edge, resulting in a significant traffic jam. This case immediately made the news in newspapers and television, as well as social media. All the citizens knew about it, and paid special attention to the increasingly common suicides. Their fears were real. Expressions were shared on social media, and the situation was chaotic. This troubling news instantly reached the ears of Yamile and Zhao. They were certain that the Split Sun group would dismantle the woman's tomb later that night. Yamile and Zhao will certainly not remain silent. So what are their plans? We'll do some reconnaissance, gather as much information as we can so we know who our enemy really is, said Yamil. I disagree. Look at this, Zhao explained as he showed a news article about a woman who had committed suicide earlier. This woman's corpse must contain the demon Kalanak, and we're just going to let it rise? You're crazy, he said. Then what's your plan? Like yesterday. We fight tooth and nail, but don't get any information, snapped Yamil. That's why you're using your power. Our enemies must already know our movements. Eventually they'll send Kalanak to kill us, said Zhao. That's what you keep talking about, Yamil snapped. He walked away and didn't want to argue with his brother anymore. For some reason, his temper exploded when he demanded that his brother use his demonic powers. Then Yamil chose to bathe, to let his emotions subside a bit, took off all his clothes and turned on the shower. Fresh water immediately splashed strongly on his head and the rest of his body. He closed his eyes and imagined how ruthless he would become if he ever used that demonic power. Yamil possessed Niroki's demonic powers. However, he was unable to fully wield this power because he had not swallowed the green pendant, which held immense power. There was still fear in his heart, because swallowing the demon pendant meant that he was ready to lose the human side that was inside him. Swallowing the pendant also meant that Yamil had to ally himself with a demon who was an enemy of humans. Unconsciously, his hands clenched tightly, his emotions even more upset. Yamil immediately punched the bathroom wall repeatedly until his hands bled. Confusion was truly in his heart. Now the night was getting late, but Yamil and Zhao were still at odds. There was no agreement between the two on what strategy to execute for tonight: scout the enemy or set up another ambush. Zhao had already prepared himself by pinning knives and pistols to his vest. He didn't seem to care about his brother, choosing to act independently. Preparing all his battle equipment kept him occupied. But when caught off guard, Yamil hit Zhao on the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. Sorry, he said softly. Yamil knew that his brother would be desperate to ambush him again. However, Yamil felt compelled to take this action to ensure the success of his reconnaissance plan. Not only that, but he also injected an anesthetic to keep Zhao asleep for a long time. For the sake of anticipation, Yamil also tied Zhao's hands and feet so that when he woke up, he couldn't do anything until Yamil returned home. Now Yamil's determination was strong. He would do his own reconnaissance. Preparations were immediately made. Many weapons he carried: knives, grenades, pistols, and poison needles. He was so reliable in using all tools of war. Yamil hurried to leave after finishing all the preparations. He made his way to the cemetery on the outskirts of his city, where the body of the girl who committed suicide lay. When he got there, it was still very quiet. The group of the sun had not yet come. He quickly hid, climbed up a tree, and camouflaged himself with the darkness of the night. His eyes kept scanning the surroundings, especially the area of the girl's grave. He lingered there, observing his surroundings intently. Midnight came, and at exactly 12 p.m., 5 stocky men arrived. They walked so slowly, there was barely a sound. 2 men dispersed, to ensure their actions remained undetected. The task of dismantling the girl's tomb fell to the remaining 3 men. They were so skillful that in an instant the tomb was completely dismantled. The coffin was clearly visible. When opened, the girl revealed her beautiful face. One of the men immediately opened the corpse's mouth wide and put his hand in, took the white pendant, and put it in the black box. The 3 of them smiled with satisfaction. Soil immediately covered the grave. The work of the 3 was fast and skillful in dismantling the tomb. Yamil prepared to go down so he could follow them. He descended the tree so slowly without any sound that the men were not suspicious of his presence. As the men left, a car picked them up in front of the cemetery. Yamil immediately ran to his motorcycle, which he parked in the side area. At full speed, he followed the sedan car in which the men were riding. The sedan continued along the outskirts of Eastern City. Finally, the car entered a small street, at the end of which there was a quite magnificent house. Yamil stopped and chose to lurk from a distance. They went inside the house, he muttered. Yamil chose to walk around, staking out the house from the back area. Yamil parked his motorcycle in the alley that separated the houses. Immediately, he climbed the roof of a resident's house, creeping like a soldier on the battlefield. From a distance, the house was so bright that all its contents were clearly visible. The men met an old man and handed him the black box containing the white pendant. Yamil wanted to eavesdrop, but their conversation was completely inaudible. Yamil tried to get closer, moving quietly to the side of the house. Next, he attempted to gently open the door, allowing their conversation to be audible. But his back was hit so hard from behind that he was thrown into the house. His body immediately collided with the wall opposite him with great force. Yamil could only grimace in pain. "Hi, he," laughed the woman who hit Yamil. The woman was pretty, with long hair and casual clothes, but her laughter was so ear-piercing that the men chose to flee the house. She flew into the house and came to Yamil, who was still grimacing in pain. "So this is the town hero named Yamil Ludicor, coming alone. Where's your sister?" she asked. He. Chapter 3. A very painful laughter. This was a trap. Yamil walked into the enemy's trap. The pain was intense in his left arm. It was this part of his body that slammed hard into the wall of the house. While enduring the pain, he continued to observe his surroundings. In front of him was a woman with the demonic ability of Kalanak. Yes, this is the power of the demon Kalanak. Her laughter was shrill and made anyone's ears hurt. Now Yamil really had to fight her alone without his sister. "Hi, he. Your ears hurt. Sorry, I couldn't stop my laughter. Hi, he, the woman said. I'm sorry I have to kill you here. You're meddling in my business too much." Suddenly, the woman's hair turned solid and formed sharp thorns. Her next attack was so deadly, hundreds of sharp thorns shot at Yamil. While enduring the pain, he dodged and countered the attack by firing a gun. The woman was able to dodge easily. The gunshot was so slow. Yamil now stood up straight, preparing to start the fight. He held the pistol tightly in his right hand and pointed the muzzle at the woman's head. "Who are you?" asked Yamil. "Me? He. The woman's laughter made Yamil's ears hurt. "My name is Rana. Tonight you must die," she replied. The woman flew straight at Yamil so fast. Of course, Yamil did not remain silent. He continued to shoot at her. Regrettably, she easily evaded his shots. When the distance got closer, the woman named Rana prepared to kick Yamil with all her might. But this attack failed again. Deftly, Yamil avoided it by jumping on him. Because Rana's hair was so long, Yamil cleverly grabbed it and intended to pull it and slam it to the floor. "Ah, my hair!" cried Rana in pain. "But it's a lie," he said quietly with a cynical smile. Her hair transformed into sharp thorns, piercing Yamil's hand instantly. Yamil released his grip because he was in pain. His hand was stuck with a sharp thorn. Kalanak's strength was like a hedgehog defending against an enemy attack. He's in pain, poor thing," said Rana teasingly. Yamil pulled out all the thorns stuck in his palm. It was so painful, and the pain seemed to radiate throughout the body. "You are indeed a demon. You're the one responsible for people's unnatural deaths. You manipulated their suicides," snapped Yamil. "I see that you understand. I did indeed manipulate them to the point of such despair that they contemplated suicide," he responded calmly. "You realize that, right?" "That's why you have to die now," she said, and immediately attacked Yamil with sharp thorns from her hair. This house became a prepared battle area. There was no furniture. It was completely empty, so there was no place to take cover. Yamil could only run while continuing to look for an opening to attack back. The woman's attack had stopped for a moment. This opportunity was not wasted by Yamil. He immediately launched a counterattack by firing his gun. Of course, the woman could avoid it, but this shot was not meant to hit her. Yamil then threw poisonous thorns at the woman as she dodged the gunshots. The woman's defense was wide open. Immediately, Yamil ran and jumped to attack her with a knife. Yamil's sudden arrival shocked Rana. Her eyes could only bulge because it was difficult to avoid the attack. But humans who already have demonic powers are difficult to conquer. Rana unleashed her power again, this time not the thorns in her hair, but a scream that was so painful to the ears. Even this scream was like a shock wave of electricity, instantly inflicting pain on Yamil and propelling him until he hit the wall. He. That was close. You have the best fighting IQ, said Rana. So what do you want me to kill you with? She said, as she approached Yamil, who could no longer move. His body had reached its limit. Rana prepared to attack again. This time she turned her hair into a spear, the tip so sharp and deadly. I'm sorry, Zhao. It seems you'll have to fight alone, Yamil finally said, as a faint smile played across his lips. These few tense seconds felt very long to Yamil. He could even clearly see the movement of the spear-shaped hair that was hurtling toward him. Suddenly, a ball the size of an adult's fist came through the window. The ball emitted thick black smoke that instantly filled the entire room. Yamil and Rana instantly inhaled it. Yamil slowly lost consciousness, and so did Rana. Her attack failed. Her hair was loose and not as sturdy as before. She could only stand staggered by continuing to cover her nose so as not to inhale too much of the gas. Because the smoke was so thick, Rana could not see anything. She was unaware that another individual had infiltrated the house and launched a deadly attack on her. Zhao was the one who came to save his brother. He came wearing a special mask so as not to inhale the gas he was carrying. He emerged from the smoke and stabbed Rana with his sword. Die, he said softly, with a satisfied smile. The tip of his sword pierced Rana's abdomen through to her back. Rana groaned in pain and vomited blood. Zhao quickly withdrew his sword, then kicked Rana so hard in the face that she bounced off and hit the wall behind her. Zhao ran to the back to help Yamil. Yamila was already unconscious, her body full of wounds. This is what happens when you pretend to attack alone, Zhao said. He quickly picked up his brother's body and moved away from the house. Zhao rushed back home so he could take care of his brother, who was badly injured. This incident intensified Zhao's realization that he and his brother could not compete with the demon followers. Their power was too terrifying for ordinary humans. Therefore, for him to use demonic powers to face them was a must. Unfortunately, he didn't have that power. Only Emil had it and could control it. That's what he believed all along. After being unconscious for a long time, Yamil finally woke up. His confusion stemmed from the fact that he awoke in his room, where his body had received such excellent care. Where am I? In my room. Who's taking care of me? Is it Zhao? He muttered. Zhao came into the room from outside. Yes, I'm the one who saved you and took care of you, he said, with an annoyed look on his face for being kept by his brother. How could you? Yamil asked in surprise. I kept you. That's what you always say. I easily escaped to untie you. Very easily, he replied angrily and full of arrogance. I've made some mung bean porridge that you like. Eat it while it's still warm, so that your body will be healthy soon, Zhao said. Yamil immediately accepted it, his eyes lighting up when he saw that the porridge topped with green balls looked so delicious. He ate the porridge with gusto. Taste my revenge, I can't wait for the surprise, Zhao said, with a satisfied smile as he watched his brother eat so heartily.